Thank you everyone for showing up. Welcome. We're gonna start our presentation right now. So the title of the presentation is Establishing a Global Community of Practice on Coordinated Vulnerability Disclosure. So we're gonna start. So here's the information about us, the speakers. Myself, I'm Tomo from JPCERT Coordination Center, Global CVD project lead of the organization. My passion is for CVD, SBOM, BEX, CV, international cooperation, things like that. Please.
Yeah, thanks, Tomo. Justin Murphy. I work for CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, vulnerability analyst there. Really excited to talk about this effort with you guys today. Passionate as well about coordinated vulnerability disclosure. Been involved with the SBOM BEX community for a few years now, the standards community. Glad to be here again at VulnCon. What a great venue, what a great conference. And we're really excited to talk about this effort with you. I'll pass it back over to Tomo.
Okay. So for today's presentation, this is what we're going to talk about. CVD-COP, Global Community of Practice on Coordinated Vulnerability Disclosure, which we recently established. CVD overview about the community, when established, objectives, why membership, challenges, things like that, future work. And we're going to ask for your feedback as well. So first, I'm going to touch on a little bit on CVD. CVD, many of you know, I guess, but I'm going to explain anyway. Coordinated vulnerability disclosure. CVD, it is the process of gathering, coordinating, and disclosing of vulnerability information. It is a global good practice. Often many different stakeholders are involved in the CVD cases. And vulnerability information flows through global product supply chain. So it's a global thing. And multi-party CVD, MPCVD. You may know multi-party MPCVD is a CVD case where many or multiple vendors and suppliers participate. It's very complex, not just because of the number of the participants, but because the complexity of the MPCVD equals to the complexity of supply chain. And as you can see with the situation of CVD being incorporated into different like regulations and laws such as EU CRA, the importance of CVD is increasing. And here's the basic stakeholders and the information flow of CVD. There are people like reporters, finders. These are people who find vulnerabilities, report vulnerabilities on the left. So these are reporters and finders. And then the information, once found, the vulnerability information goes to the vendor. Vendor receives the information, confirms the vulnerability, creates patch, updates. And then the information goes to the vulnerability advisory, basically to the public. And then the user see the vulnerability information and take necessary actions. That's the basic stakeholders and information flow. And then there are people who are called coordinators, such as myself, JPCERT or CISA. So yeah, so coordinators are kind of in a unique position in CVD. We don't find vulnerabilities or we're not product owners, but we try to be the good CVD supporter by facilitating things, doing the communication, things like that. So to make sure the CVD process goes well. So that's who we are. So back to you, Justin.
Yeah, so this is revisiting a slide that Tomo already went over, but if it's not obvious to you, what we're trying to emphasize here is that CVD is truly global, a global process. In obvious ways, and Tomo again touched on this, you have your multi-party CVD situation where you have multiple vendors, multiple suppliers. The likelihood that those come from around the globe is high. You also have situations where maybe CISA, as a coordinator, we're working a CVD case with a Japanese vendor, and it makes sense to bring in JPCERT with help with the coordination of that case. Some other things too. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about how CISA very briefly talked about how CISA views CVD, how we think about CVD, how we conduct CVD. Tomo's going to give a quick overview of JPCERT's perspective. And of course, there's a lot of similarities there. But one thing that is also true in an aspect of CVD being global is there are some nuances. There are some unique use cases. There are some maybe requirements that we are facing, some different considerations being part of the federal government in our case. There's aspects of the CVD process that may be unique based on the region, even based on the culture, based on what level of involvement as a facilitator or coordinator that we might have, because all of that is a little bit different depending on which, in our case, we're a national coordinator. In Tomo's case, he's a national CERT, right? So there's definitely different aspects of why we want to talk about CVD as global, and why what we're going to get to, we thought there was a lot of value in bringing a community together of coordinators in that unique role to talk about how can we get better at CVD. So CISA, if you went to the CISA website, you go to the CVD page, recently updated, I believe, right? Soon, okay, it's coming soon. But if you went there, this is the definition you would see. This is some of the information you'd see about our mission and our goal. That top bullet point, right? Our goal is we're coordinating the remediation and public disclosure, newly identified cybersecurity vulnerabilities and products and services with affected vendors. That's for your traditional IT vulnerabilities, sure, but probably in our role, our main concern and our main focus is our nation's critical infrastructure and the federal executive branches. So obviously a huge focus of ours is our ICS, OT, but we do touch on IT, OT, ICS, IoT, AI, all the above. We are also a top-level route for the CVE numbering authority. If you're not familiar with CNAs, you'll have opportunities to hear about that. I'm sure there's many CNAs here probably in the room, two right here. I know looking at the crowd, there are others. So learn more about the CNA program this week. But we are a top-level route CNA. So we help with assigning CVEs for vendors who are also CNAs through ICS and medical device vendors.
Okay, cool. And about JPCERT Coordination Center, we are CVD coordinator. We coordinate both domestic and overseas issues. So it's not only Japanese issues that we handle. We have this framework, Japanese vulnerability handling framework in Japan. And in the framework, we are designated as the coordinator of the framework. And it is set in accordance with the notification issued by Japanese government, MEDI. And Japanese vendors are registered to the framework. So we get to know all these vendors that are in Japan. And then we are CNA and root, as Justin mentioned. And our motivation for this CVD stuff is reducing risks to the users and society. So this is kind of posed as almost, to be a little bit playful. Another working group. I know a lot of us spend a lot of our times in working group meetings throughout our weeks and our months. So you might be thinking, establishing another working group. And one thing, I hope you got to hear Pete's remarks this morning, and he challenged us this week. And what's fun about what he mentioned was it reminded me of last year at VulnCon, being here at the McKimmon Center, and Tomo and I, actually right where the registration area is, outside. It was a beautiful day. We went outside and enjoyed the nice weather, and we had a conversation about the idea, what would it be like to establish a group like this? And so probably without VulnCon, I don't know if we would be here talking to you today, a year later, about this group that we have established. So yes, another working group. Why is that valuable? We're going to talk to you about that. Tomo's going to touch on that. But we also recognize there has been a lot of work done in this area. There's actually a first vulnerability coordination SIG that already exists. There's been previous work done all the way back to 2004. The NIAC, National Infrastructure Advisory Council, published a vulnerability coordination document. More recent, but still 10 years ago.
2015, ENISA put out a document about vulnerability disclosure. Next slide. You have the CERT guide from 2017, updated the website, really great resource for CVD in 2019. You had the Center for, I'm going to forget what CEPS means, but European think tank that put out some information about software vulnerability disclosure. ENISA published a document, I think in 2023. We have the ISO standard, the Vulnerability Coordination SIG that I mentioned. They put out a great resource, a great document about multi-party vulnerability coordination back in 2020. That group is still standing, but I don't, we had conversations with Art, its co-chair, when we were talking about starting up this group, because it was a consideration, you can go to the next slide, Tomo, that we might, in a sense, I don't know if revitalize is the right word, but what would it look like to join efforts with this group, or should we start our own group? You're going to find out that we decided to start our own group, and we're going to explain some of those reasons why. If you were here last year, you might be thinking, is this a repeat of Tomo's presentation? And in some ways, kind of, right? I mean, the idea is the same. Some of us are ahead of others, and JPCERT was really somebody that, and the reason we wanted to talk to Tomo is because of his APCERT CVD working group. We have 15 minutes, by the way.
Okay. So basically, just speaking about APCERT CVD working group, is that APCERT is the community of different CSAFs in the Asia Pacific region. We came together trying to tackle different CVD issues as a regional group. So we're working on this right now. We have 6 members. We're working on it right now.
And one thing I want to highlight too, all these resources we just went through and showed you, a lot of them, if not all of them, mention something that would be a value, almost an expectation from industry would be that there would be a lot of value in government, international organizations coming together to harmonize, develop some common guidance around CVD to really emphasize the importance of vulnerability management and to develop some common best practices. And so that was another big emphasis of why we felt there was a lot of value in starting this community.
Right. So why we established this group? CVD is a global good practice. We're trying to enhance the global information cooperation, and capacity developing jointly is important. We have seen like cases where CVD cases fail due to cultural or language gaps between different stakeholders. So we're trying to overcome that, such stuff. We're trying to facilitate knowledge and experience sharing and find solutions to overcome the challenges while carrying out CVD.
So these, I'm not going to walk through these in depth. These are actually, so we do have an established charter for our community of practice. These kind of spell out what our goals and objectives. Tomo kind of highlighted what that was already just on the last slide. But really we want to bring together CVD subject matter experts in the role of third-party coordinator, whether that be national coordinators or national certs. You'll see in a later slide, we kind of characterize our membership as you're either a government entity or an entity that works with the government in official capacity to conduct CVD for the government. And so one thing, next slide's good. Hopefully you had a chance to read those. You know, the ultimate goal is we wanted to come together to get better at CVD. I mean, that's as simple as it is. And especially, I think, being in the role that we're in as a third-party coordinator, we have a unique role, as Tomo pointed out, because we, of course, are facilitating. We're bridge builders, I think is a really good way of describing what we do. We're bridge builders. We're a neutral third party, a neutral facilitator. Sometimes we're a de-escalator if it gets contentious, hopefully, and I would say more often than not, that's not the case. But we do serve a unique role, and we have, you know, almost a piece in terms of that bridge building in each part of the stakeholders that are involved in the CVD process. And so one thing I also want to mention before we kind of wrap up the presentation, this group, we're not coming together to form any official policy that, you know, thou shalt do these things. We're not coming together we're not a regulating body. We're not a standards group. We are really coming together to bring like-minded individuals or organizations in the area of CVD who are third-party coordinators to come together to harmonize and develop common guidance around CVD to ultimately help the greater CVD community be better. And I think we're in a unique and good role to be in position to help do that. So current state, we established this group in December, right at the end of last year. We had our first official meeting December 5th. We have been meeting monthly ever since. So we've had about 4 or 5 months of meetings. We're structured very similar to your standard working group. We have we have a few different co-chairs, myself, Tomo, and our friend Ollie from the UK. We have 17 different participants. You're going to actually see those in the next slide. We have 17 different participants throughout the globe representing 14 different countries, or because we have an CISA in there, we say 14 different countries, 15 different regions. We have finalized a community charter. Our membership is, I want to say it's diverse. Obviously it's diverse in the sense that we come from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds, even as roles of coordinators, we have different involvement in the process of CVD. But one thing that's been really exciting is our memberships are, I would say, at like different stages in their CVD journey. Some of us, you might say, are a little bit further along. Some of us are new or just kind of starting out. What's exciting about that for us is while that can kind of present some challenges, it's really an opportunity. I think for us who are further down the road, maybe have a little bit more experience or understanding, it's good to remember and remind ourselves what it was like when we were first starting out. I think there's a lot of value in that because sometimes you can develop or overlook some things or develop some bad habits or practices. So it's good to look at those processes closely. And for those who are newer in the journey, they can look to us and apply how we are doing things to how, as they are developing their processes and practices, they can look to us to kind of help guide their own, maybe not do it exactly the same, but at least take inspiration from. So yeah, here's the membership that I had mentioned. We're really excited that not only do we have great participation so far, we have other organizations who are interested. If you are yourself a national CERT, national coordinator, who is not involved in this group, please come talk to us. Whether you want to join or just have an opinion, have some questions, questions about CVD, how you could get involved. If you're a vendor, supplier, if you work in private sector industry and you're involved with CVD, please come talk to us. Please come find us. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to talk about that actually and pose some questions to you here as we wrap up the presentation.
Yeah. So the challenges spotted so far in this community, the first thing is that different we all have different like CVD image for all different like members. So for one member, when we are talking about CVD, we're talking about like the coordination part mostly. But for other organization, they more focus on information distribution after the disclosure part. So we're saying, CVD, we are thinking that we're, talking about same thing, but we're actually talking about like, it happens that we're talking about different things. So we should be careful about that. And the second one is on a different level of understanding. I mean, this happens and it's not that, one is understanding more than other, differences are beautiful. So this is a good thing, I guess. But yeah, different level of understanding exists. So that's another thing to watch out for. And in the group, more vocal and less vocal organizations exist, which I guess this is a comfort issue maybe. So we're trying to overcome that. And then the last one, the members are mainly government-related organizations. So it needs a balanced. It needs to be balanced with different stakeholders in the ecosystem as a whole. So these are the challenges that we have spotted so far. So summary. You want to? Oh, okay. Okay. CVD is a global good practice. We mentioned that. International collaboration is important and fun. Harmonization is what we are focusing on. And then what we're trying to do actually here in CVD-COP, I would like to emphasize, is that global CVD coordinators coming together and trying to get better. That's it. You know, we're trying to enhance the effectiveness of vulnerability coordination globally. And it's not about like CVD processes. Basically, you know, it's not going to work if, I mean, even if we follow the same processes, it's not going to work because, you know, coordination part is very important. If things aren't being coordinated, it's going to end up in not achieving the goal of CVD, which is risk reduction. So what I would like to emphasize here is that, you know, it's not just about the processes. The coordination part is very important.
Great. And we're going to pose some questions to you on the next slide. We have some ideas of what we want to do now that we're established and getting a little more organized. We're even going to be using GitHub as a sharing mechanism. Right now, that's a private repository, but that's something that's exciting too, that we can have that asynchronous communication and work on things asynchronously and not just for the 1 hour we meet monthly. But we'd love to pose the question for you. We have some ideas of what we would think would be good starting, a good starting deliverable, perhaps to deliver to the community. But you guys are the experts. And like Tomo just pointed out, we need some balance. We're a bunch of coordinators. We need some balance from the community and some opinions from the rest of the community and the different roles that you serve in the CVD process. Love to hear from you. Like, what would you like to see from our community of practice? What do you think are some of the gaps that exist? What is needed for CVD to help it be better in general? And how do you think in our unique role could we provide that service? How might you envision our group supporting the overall community? So we're challenging you for the next 5 minutes. You can ask us questions, of course, but we'd love to hear some feedback from you guys of what you think might be helpful. Yes, sir. Yes, right behind you.
Okay, thanks. So is this on? Okay, we go. There's already a vulnerability coordination SIG within FIRST. Are you guys coordinating with them for the different audiences?
So Art, correct me if I'm wrong. That group, while still technically an official SIG, and I think you will meet in Copenhagen probably, right? At least a chat. It's not necessarily having active meetings and developing anything in the meantime. We did talk to Art early on, and it was even thrown out like, well, maybe we just not take over, but maybe we come in and revitalize that group or repurpose that group. We ultimately decided to start our own, but yeah, we are definitely taking, all those resources that we showed you earlier. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're going to take, we consider those, if anything, like foundational. Anything that we develop is going to be guided and referenced by those things, including the work that the vulnerability coordination SIG has done. So, yes, Pete.
So I'm not wrestling you for it, but since I was involved in a lot of those other efforts, and when we did the 2020 redo and we did MPD, I think there's a whole lot missing. You got to go back to the 2004 document, which is all bilateral and was mostly through CERT or direct. There's a lot more coordination that goes on right now within the producer communities. And I think we need to account for that. And then the question is the roles that the CNAs, and more specifically the roots and the CNALRs have in here. What does that play? And then when I look at what they did in MVVE, it was actually a discussion a bunch of us had already about disclosure as not being a good term. Okay. Because there's many things that happen in there without going to a coordinator. And we need to, if we're going to do the effort, I think we need to really think through that effort. And I know from the PCERT side, we need to be part of that effort because we're the guys most often doing the work.
Sure.
So I don't know what that lash up will be, but we need to kind of talk our way through that. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
We have one minute remaining.
1 minute remaining. You got it. 1 minute. Well, please, you see the bottom right here. Oh, we got one. I do want to mention real quick. We'll be here all week. Please come and find us and talk to us. we would love to discuss this amongst other things too. One thing, you know, what Pete mentioned too, the role of the CNAs. I don't know the percentage, but it's very high. The percentage of our participants who are CNAs is high, and I would say also those who are in the process of or in the process of consideration of becoming CNAs
Right.
as well. So, yeah. Yes, sir. Great. Yes. Okay. First question: do we have a roadmap? No. Response to that: we should develop one, shouldn't we, Tomo? That's great. So, I mean, we meet as co-chairs, and we discuss. You know, like, hey, we of course want the community to. Not just us three. We do serve as a leadership role, but we're more so there as facilitators and to guide. But we definitely have some ideas. We have in a direction we want to go. But I like the idea of kind of developing sort of a roadmap or some milestones that we might hit. And that's a great suggestion. To apply or to join, talk to us, reach out to us. We do have a sort of like a voting procedure within the community that anybody who would want to join the group, we bring it first to the community and say, hey, CERT. Country wants to join. Any objections? I don't anticipate that there would be. And then you are a part of our group. Awesome. Please come talk to us.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I want to say thanks to Justin and Tomo for a great job today.
Can you be free to move to the next slide, Tomo, real quick? Just here's our contact information, by the way, if you want to snap a picture of that or anything.